those who have been the beneficiaries of this.
Secretary Buttigieg, thank you so much for speaking with AURN. And I want to just off the bat, the theme of this year's conference is bridging the gap. Talk about how the Transportation Department is bridging the gap.
Well, there's really two gaps that are on my mind. One has been the gap between minority, enterprise, and workers and all the opportunities that are out there. And historically, that's been especially true when it came to public sector opportunities and federal dollars. But in our generation, we're doing it differently. We're making sure, especially with a $1.2 trillion infrastructure push led by President Biden, that the opportunities that come with that, the contracts that come with that, the jobs that come with that, go to those who have been historically excluded and historically underestimated. But the second gap that I think we can address is the wealth gap that exists in our country. One of the best ways we can do that is to be intentional about how we deliver the opportunities that come with not just having a great road or bridge or tunnel or airport, but with building it and doing the work to make it happen. That's why I'm excited to be engaging with these business leaders who know how to get the work done, but haven't always had the capital, haven't always had the connections, haven't always had the access. We can tear down those barriers, and that's exactly what this is all about.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because with the infrastructure plan, the president said that he wanted to increase contracts by 50% for minorities. You know, we know historically right now it's like 1.67% contracts that minorities get. Can you update us on what those numbers are like and what else is being done to increase that?
So in our department, we raised the bar for our contract going to what we call SDBs, small disadvantaged businesses, and we set and beat a very high goal. We're over 21%. We've increased by about $1.7 billion, just to put that in concrete terms. And there's more distance to run, and there's more work that we're going to do. We're trying to make sure that both with the direct federal contract opportunities and with all of those dollars we're pushing out to the states or the cities or the transit agencies or the airport authorities, that they get the message too, that we need and expect them to be including everybody, bringing minority businesses to the table, engaging DBEs to get this done.
I've heard you talk before, and the president as well, about putting equity at the center of this. How are you able to measure? How are you keeping track that is actually happening throughout state and local governments?
Well, this is part of what Justice 40 is all about. That's the president's commitment that at least 40% of the clean investments in infrastructure are going to go to historically overburdened and underrepresented communities. And we've got some rigorous data processes that are not about the numbers for numbers' sake. They're about seeing how we're doing and making sure we meet our marks. Now, trying to make sure we do it in a way that's smart. We don't want to make it even harder for DBEs, for example, by creating all these reporting requirements. But we do need to make sure that we can follow those dollars and see that they're getting out equitably. This is a big priority for the president. I think it's rightly a big priority for the country to get this right, because, again, it's not only part of how we build and do infrastructure well, it's a chance to actually close these racial wealth gaps and regional wealth gaps that have existed for so long in our society.
Now, the president also directed all 90 agencies, I believe it is, to come up with equity plans and to submit those plans to a steering committee. That was due on September the 30th. I haven't heard anything back as far as what has happened, but can you tell me, has your department submitted those equity plans, and can you talk about what is in that and the process after?
Yeah, so we got our information in. We've built an equity action plan department-wide that's responsive to the White House executive order, but also separately something we knew that we needed and wanted to do anyway to guide a lot of our work. So we got that in. Honestly, I don't know if we got it in just before or slightly after that deadline, because we want to make sure we got it just right. But I know that we've gotten that in. And what they're going to be able to do with that is look across the different agencies. We've got so many different sides of the house in the federal government. Don't always talk to each other. Don't always compare notes. That's part of why I'm so excited about this event. Here you have the MBDA, which is led by the Department of Commerce, and Secretary Raimondo, my cabinet colleague, cares a great deal about the success of the MBDA. You have the Small Business Administration, led by Isabella Guzman, who we have worked with closely ever since we came in, me as secretary, her as administrator. You got my department and a whole bunch of others out there. We need to be doing a better job of being a unified voice on equity, and frankly, a more user-friendly body to work with if you're a business trying to get a shot at working with the federal government.
Last question, and this is about DEI. There's been a huge attack, especially since the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, where we see different businesses rolling back diversity efforts. We also see the 8A program even at stake. And so what do you say to people who are feeling discouraged and they're seeing what's happening real time? How are you able to protect some of the work that you've been doing and even advance forward as corporations, some seem to move backwards?
Well, first of all, we're not budging. We're standing strong. We believe the law is on our side. We believe the country is on our side. And we believe that justice is on the side of taking steps to make sure that opportunity is felt fairly and equally. So a lot of that is legal blocking and tackling to do things like make sure we have a good, strong defense of our DBE programs. I see some of the attacks that are coming in, and my message to those attackers is these efforts, these programs, they're not making anybody worse off. They're making those better off who were excluded before. When you break something, you have an obligation to mend it. And America has broken some things and needs to mend those things.
Say that. Please say that. Please say that. Let us repeat that again before I let you go. Yes.
Look, we federal dollars divided communities, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we're not raising the profile of those issues to make everybody feel guilty. We're raising the profile of those issues because now we have a chance to do something about it. Where you and I are standing is not far from what's called the highway to nowhere in Baltimore that divided communities and didn't even bring a benefit for transportation. We're now funding the community in working through ways to replace or remove that highway to nowhere so that people are connected again. There's examples like that all across the country. We have an obligation and an opportunity. And again, when we get this right, everybody's going to be better off.
I know you all have like 20,000 projects that have been kind of put on the table, and half of the infrastructure dollars the transportation department receives. So please keep us updated and with alerts on what is happening next. And thank you.
For sure. Great being with you.